Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Richard Maxwell here again with another episode of the Arcadia High School Creative Musical Arts and Sciences program here in the lovely, somewhat cloudy Phoenix, Arizona. Um, I am here today. It is November 6th. Yes, 2020. I am here with the always wonderful Professor Andrew Gonzalez. He is our student teacher this semester. And I want to actually start, I should say, Andrew and I were kind of just getting some things put together, and there were some issues on the live stream here. And so the students that were going to join us remotely, things were being grumpy. I am so sorry to those students. I will make it up to you. But today I thought just because we were pushing up against the broadcast time, and as you may realize, we were already a couple minutes late. So I am very, very sorry that we inadvertently had to exclude some students. But we thought that it might be a good opportunity anyway for just Andrew and I to maybe chat a little bit about a couple of things that are, relevant to what goes on maybe on the educator side of things. Hopefully the students will forgive me, but if not, I want you all to know that this was Andrew's idea entirely, and he's the one you should be mad at, not me, because just take one for the team, man. Just.
I guess so.
So, anyway, that being said, I thought, maybe a shorter podcast today, but nonetheless, I was thinking it might be kind of fun real quick. I know we've talked about sort of, some of your background and your band and all that other stuff, but I was wondering, like, you came at this you came at student teaching with me a little bit different. Not even so much that you'd been here as an intern a couple of times, which is awesome. And I'm always glad. I think I've told you, I pretty much tell everybody I love having student teachers, but I'm always hesitant to have one who hasn't been here as an intern first, because even though like things change a lot in the program, and I'm always happy that we can morph things and move things around, but I always feel like I can't possibly put somebody in that situation first. It's one thing as an intern to go in a little bit blind, but as a student teacher, that just feels like that could get ugly really fast and unfair. But I was wondering also, because without sounding silly, you've also done a lot, like you're older in your pursuits.
It's true.
I guess so I'm wondering, like, could you maybe speak a little bit just to like how maybe some of your real world experience maybe has impacted some of your, I don't know,
like kind of how the path came to be.
Yeah, maybe real quick.
Yeah. So I grew up in Gilbert, Arizona, graduated from Highland High School in 2013. And from there, I knew I wanted to pursue music. I thought that I would like I wanted to have a big band program. I wanted to have, I wanted to become a teacher to like provide the same experiences that I experienced when I was leaving high school. And so mostly I was playing tuba, and I started music with guitar, but because at the time you could only go to music school for like the classical instruments, I focused on tuba for a long time. So coming out of there, I ended up going to Mesa Community College first, and spent 2 years there getting my grades up and stuff. I ended high school with some pretty low grades, but ironically, I go to test for, your placement exams when you go to college to place you in the right math class. I scored high enough in all the categories, like, English, math. I scored high enough that I got a full ride from Mesa Community College.
Kidding.
Yeah. Whereas
you never told me that before. That's awesome.
Well, it's funny because my grades were so low coming out of high school that I couldn't even get into ASU. And at the time, they used to say ASU would take anybody. So that was shocking for me. I'm like, wait, you mean they can't take me? Yeah, it was an awkward situation where the music school was like, we'd love to have you, but the university doesn't. Yeah. So, no, it was actually my 2 years at Mesa Community College were so formative to what I'm doing now.
So I've wondered, and I should say I did change my background because somehow every time you're on this podcast with me, we're in the same room and you always wind up with the better background. It's very upsetting to me. So I
readjusted so the lights aren't so like offensive.
Yeah, but even that would have been, but even that looks cooler than what I had behind me. I have like a file cabinet.
It's okay. I look like I'm in a closet, and in some ways,
but it's a closet full of really cool things.
That's true.
I've got a file cabinet. Our front of house, we need to work on the ambient, like the ambiance of front of house at some point, because
it needs a mood.
The front of house is great. The back of front of house is just not very impressive. But anyway, that's not important. But okay. So to that end, though, I am a big fan of ASU. I'm a big fan of U of A, NAU, all these universities. I mean, we're lucky. We have all these great partnerships.
Yeah. And I'm happy to have finally gotten to ASU. And, there were other formative experiences that I didn't have at Mesa.
And we have, and to be fair, SCC in particular, we get, I think students are now, it's literally the point where I have to make sure I get the count right. 27 hours of college credit, I think they're eligible for.
Wow. Just with CMAS?
Just with CMAS, which is just ludicrous in the most wonderful of ways. And that's not to say they all take advantage of it, but the fact that they're even eligible for it.
Yeah.
So we've got SEC, we have all these things, we've got some stuff with GCU and MCC and I'm probably forgetting some others. We've been very, very lucky, the support for all the, these post-secondary educational options, CRAS and so on. And that's just in the state, let alone out of state. But one of the things that I was wondering about was, because I've known you now for several years, I know that you've done outside of the sort of more traditional educational stuff, but you've also done all of these other, forgive me, real world music things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm wondering what and this is, maybe I'm wrong, wouldn't be the first time. Is there an element though to this that the reality of having kind of, I don't want to say started late, but you've taken, having taken just a little more time and in the process done all of those other things. Like, I wonder, because like sometimes, interns come in sometimes and they kind of look around and it's a little overwhelming, but it's also a little off-putting. Yeah. And those are two very different responses. We get them both, but they're two very different responses. You not even remotely, maybe you were faking it well and I just didn't catch it. But usually I can kind of tell. Yeah. You kind of just walked in and you were like, yep, okay. Right.
Well, by the time I walked into this room for the first time, it looked like my bedroom, in a very
big
small way, But it's funny. I didn't start playing like gigs outside of school until I was maybe about 20 years old. I was a little late to it, which I'm happy to see that there are students here who are like really going at it and grinding their teeth on finding those performance outlets. I think the thing is that like when you get to music school, a lot of the people that get to music school don't know that you can create your own opportunities. They don't know that there are performance opportunities outside of like what they know and grew up with. So fortunately for me, like guitar has always been in my background. So at a certain point I wanted to start a band and however, I didn't want to pay to record us. So I bought my own stuff and I started with like just a simple like 4 input audio interface. And, we had to figure out ways to get as many mics on there as possible. So at a certain point, we were doing performances and I needed a mixer and a speaker. So, I would plug microphones into the mixer, then send the mixer to the audio interface. Right. And so, now we had 7 inputs we can use. Right. Although 4 of them are on one input.
Right. Exactly. Mixer, and then you're sort of like, but we were stuck.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like it was just constantly like getting what we needed in the moment or getting what I needed to do in the moment. And then just like pushing it to its very limit, finding every single like way around it until like I truly needed to buy something else.
I I appreciate that, and I get it. I think I guess I always wonder, like, and it's not a fishing for compliments thing. I don't mean it to come across the way at all, but you get kind of stuck with the internship here. There aren't a lot of options for places to go for the kind of sort of
Right.
outside the norm experience that ASU wants you to have. I'm flattered that they send all of you, but there is a little bit of a, okay, well, I guess here I am. Kind of, I mean, you don't have a lot of control over those options, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is. But then, to consciously decide, okay, I'm going to come back.
Yeah.
Like to deliberately choose. I take that as a huge compliment for the program and what we're doing. But I also find it interesting, like the personality types.
Yeah.
And what may or may not be possible, or may or may not be of interest in that regard.
Yeah, I find that like a lot of the people that do want to come back have a wide maybe threshold or just a wide background that allows them to enjoy the things outside of like what is the traditional music school.
Sure.
Whereas like if you don't grow up with that, or not even grow up with that, but if you don't experience that beforehand, it can be either overwhelming or very conflicting to your worldview at the time.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Let me ask you one other question. I know we're not going to talk for a really long time. You actually have a flight to catch. Please be careful in the airport.
I love talking about this though. Yeah.
Well, but I don't want you to miss your flight.
Right.
But I'm wondering. I actually have two questions. One of them is very specific to education, and one is very not. So I'll start with the one that is, because I'm truly curious. What is your sense of how, like, do you feel that because you gig a lot, because you do, I mean, okay, you did giggle, obviously.
Yeah, with COVID, it's a little different.
So we're sort of putting the disclaimer of COVID notwithstanding. But do you feel like that gives you a different sense of how you're going to interact or how you're going to interface when you're in the classroom? Because I feel like I've noticed even for myself that if I get too detached completely from my own projects and everything is kind of this is not to say I don't want to prioritize the students in my life. Don't miss, if anybody listening to this or watching this, don't misunderstand. But I do think that there is a problem sometimes when teachers live vicariously through their students' experiences. I feel like that can be really bad. Right.
And let me go back to what I was saying earlier, because I mentioned something about recreating experiences. My view on this has completely changed. It's no longer about recreating experiences, but it's about being able to offer a wide variety of experiences that the student might want to explore and pursue. I'm fortunate enough that like my background ranges from like playing in wind ensembles and orchestras, tuba quartets, to 4-piece rock bands, and playing Broadway shows and doing jazz gigs. Like all of those have added up to like a really unique experience. I've done enough of it long enough now where I can offer those experiences to my students, but it doesn't have to be a recreation of it. It can be their own. And in that way, they can take ownership of what they're doing.
Okay. So more to the point though, I'm assuming what you're basically saying though is that there is an important part of this is that you have to be able to have your own kind of creative identity.
Yeah. Yeah. The teacher has their own creative identity. But to a certain degree, be able to work outside and around it too.
Right. Of course, it's not I don't think it's an A-B kind of thing. I can remember, especially in the more competitive elements of when I was doing the bands and orchestra parts of things. Now it's a little easier because we're so outside the box in some ways that, which is
It
good
can be
and
a
bad.
resource sometimes. The
Yeah, I
traditional
can kind of,
thing,
we can push to whatever
Yeah.
priority we want, and we're all good. But which is a great benefit. Don't get me wrong. But I've always felt it would be weird. Like we'd go to festivals and things, and I always liked the part of it that involved the students and myself being able to see like, oh, there's a group that's kind of similar in demographic or kind of similar in, whatever,
maybe instrumentation or something.
yeah, whatever it is, and then you could look at that and you can go, okay, that was a really interesting way to do that. Maybe we can apply that to what we're doing and make a better musical, get a better musical result or something. But there would always be inevitably, that sort of sense from some of the other folks, at least, about how the success or not at a festival was rooted in the teacher's identity, I guess. And I guess, I don't know. And I'm sure if you talk to my former students, there would be a number of them that would probably tell you how I'm putting it nicely, how aggravating that was to them. That there would be maybe this implication that somehow it didn't matter to me or something, which was never the case at all. It absolutely mattered to me. It was absolutely very important to me. But for some reason, I've never felt it was healthy to make their experience mine in the sense of like it's like it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what I was driving at, that I wonder if to some extent your other experiences kind of foster that, because I feel like when people come here to intern or they come here to student teach or whatever, and we start talking about the details of it, it very quickly doesn't matter so much about their technical skills.
Right.
I understand why people would come in. We just had a new intern start today.
Yeah.
And she's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited for her.
She's absolutely going to do an incredible job. Maribel, it was wonderful. But in our initial conversation, she immediately said, well, but I don't really have the technical skill set of all that other parts. She's got the musical stuff, no problem. She could certainly, run circles around me without even trying. But on the technical side, she seemed legitimately worried. And it was kind of the same thing I've, known for a long time, which is that's not really the issue with it. But it does make me wonder, because the competitive part, that could be a concern. And that's nothing against her. She was like, oh, good, because now I don't have to worry about it. Like she took it the way you should take it. Yeah. But I do think a lot of people, I don't know, that living vicariously through students, I think is a really bad way to go.
Totally. I don't know, thinking about the band orchestra thing, like I could pick a piece of music that I think has a lot of like educational value and like that I just really love, or maybe something that I grew up playing, but you hand it to a group of students and depending on the personalities and stuff, it won't resonate. And there probably could have been another piece that would have hit those same like educational milestones or objectives.
Sure.
But you don't hit it because you picked a piece that they don't really care for.
Yeah, that's very true. Let me ask you one final question here as we're going to wrap this up for today. But I'm trying to decide if I want to make this hard for you to answer or easy. Okay, I'm just going to say this.
Yeah.
Let's try it this way. You have all these options for things you can pursue personally. So this is the other side of it. What actually inspires you? Like what things make you go, I got to go grab that guitar or that, tuba or, you play a lot of instruments very, very well, but what triggers that sort of creative impetus for you? Oh, I thought I was asking it the easy way. I'm sorry.
No, I know. I know. I just want to get my words together. I think in general, like a really, really powerful performances inspire me. Like, not every concert makes me want to pick up my instrument as soon as I leave the venue, but occasionally one does. And
give me an example.
Like I once saw Trey Anastasio play an acoustic set.
Okay.
And it was acoustic, but he also like included he had some effects with him as well, you know, ways to loop, octavers and stuff. And what really struck me and that I went home and experimented with right away was that his guitar and sound were also in stereo, and the lower frequencies were on one side and the higher frequencies were on the other.
Oh,
And I had never heard acoustic guitar like that before. And immediately I'm like, okay, if I ever do acoustic shows, it has to sound like that.
that's really cool.
You know, like I need a way to differentiate the bass and the treble side,
Right.
so that maybe it might sound like two players are playing together, but really it's
That's
just
really
myself on
cool.
acoustic. And so I spent like a week tinkering with my what is it, the Behringer XR18.
Okay.
It has a lot of like, it's a mixer that you control with your iPad, and there's a lot of effects on there that should allow you to do it, but I haven't figured it out yet.
we could geek out with that at some point if you want some help with that at any time. But well, let me ask you this then real quick, just as a follow-up to that. You don't maybe I should say you shouldn't name who, but have you ever had an experience? Because I've had this unfortunately happen. I may have even caused this unfortunately, which would be heartbreaking, but you know, you just never know. But I've gone to shows that I fully anticipated I was going to be inspired by, and instead
I got one in mind already.
Was very much not inspired by, and it kind of really is almost, it's very shattering in some ways. Like it really is hard to recover from. You don't necessarily say who.
I won't say who here.
But what happened?
Basically, there's an artist that puts out like really creative videos on YouTube, or at least that's how they were known for, and like really fantastic musicianship. And you know, the singles that he would put out, just like, I don't know, they just had such a groove to them. Like really compelling, really inspiring stuff. And then like, I don't know, a few years go by and I don't really think much about this person, but they were in town, and I decided to go because I'm like, oh, they were like starting to like get pretty known when I was in high school. Now they're touring and stuff. I should go check it out. And oh my gosh, it was exactly what you're talking about. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. I guess that's what it is.
Right. Because I had that happen once. There was a band that I was, and I still am, a huge fan of. And one of the members left, and they brought somebody else in, and it wasn't that they were bad. Mm-hmm. They weren't. It still worked. There was nothing I could point to that you'd be like, well, that wasn't played right or wasn't played, it wasn't anything like that. But for some reason, the show felt, I mean, I don't know, maybe it was because I had, the few years before I had seen them, but a couple of years generally isn't going to age somebody to the point where their stage presence starts to falter that much. I mean, yeah. Somebody in their 20s, and then you see them, doing a show when they're in their like 60s or 70s. Okay. Yeah. But I mean, we were talking not that long, Yeah. It should not have been that sharp of a contrast, but I remember going and being very just sort of like, I thought I was going to go to have one of those experiences like the first one you described, where I'm going to like leave that venue and I'm going to be so eager to get back home to my studio and try something. I don't know what it'll be, but there's surely going to be some moment, if not multiple moments, that make me go, I got to, figure out this. I got to try that, whatever. And instead I remember leaving and going, I got nothing. Yeah. Like, and it was really crushing because previously that had happened. Yeah. And I wanted to blame it on a technical thing. Like, well, the sound wasn't very good, or the venue this, or the audience, but like, it really was just, it just didn't.
And that's the thing. Work. Like, I just couldn't with the performance I saw. Like, usually this person would play like solo or like loop their own stuff. But they were touring with a band, and I just didn't like the arrangements. I don't know. I'd rather go back and listen to it was one of the few instances where I was like, I'd rather listen to the studio recording.
That's interesting. Do you think that that's predicated on the fact that you are such a well-trained and skilled musician? Like, if you didn't have any of that, do you think you could have gone and just enjoyed it? Or do you think like the general sense was, no, this is pretty much not what anyone wants?
I clearly like there's a group of people that like the stuff. However, for me, I just didn't see how it was like, even if I didn't have that kind of background, the music was too, there was just too much going on. I think it takes it's a really niche kind of group that would enjoy it, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the arrangements were just way too busy,
Okay.
and but still like in the pop vein. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like it was trying to be prog. It wasn't trying to be jazz. It was a lot of things. It was almost too much things at once.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just saying, as you were talking, it made me think maybe they're just trying to like you can try too hard. I've been guilty of that.
Mhm.
You overplay your hand,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then nothing works. It's like even if you get it right on paper objectively, it just doesn't. It just doesn't work anyway.
Yeah. And then they ended their set with like a couple ballads, and I don't know. I at that point I had seen a lot of shows, and I love when the show just ends with a heavy hitter, you know. And to just have the energy of the show go like this didn't do it for me.
Okay, that's fair. Maybe they were hoping at the encore they'd go down, and then at the encore it would be like this.
Right.
Giant.
But then the encore wasn't that way either. It was
Oh.
it was like an acoustic like sit down kind of moment.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Cool. Well, hey, you got to get to the airport.
Yeah.
So we'll let you go. I want to thank honestly, I am so happy, Andrew, that you are here as a student teacher.
Thank you.
It's just we've had the best couple of weeks so far, and we're going to continue. And I apologize to any students. We're doing these from the school, and networking sometimes is a little grumpy, and I apologize for that. But I will make it up to you. I did want to say ArcadiaCMAS.com has all of our shows, all of our podcasts, our recording archive. We will be back next Thursday with a live stream concert again, and another podcast on Friday. This one, I promise you, featuring lots of students. But in the meantime, thank you all so much for supporting the students and the program and everything we're doing. And we will see you all very, very soon. Take care, everybody. Yay.
Nice.
Dude, thank you for doing that.